We're going to do like a 15-minute meditation, and then we'll go into a little talk and discussion. So if you want to find a comfortable seat, there's some extra cushions if you need more support. There's chairs in the back too. Feel free to do what you need to do. I invite you to close your eyes, or if it feels better, to soft gaze at the floor in front of you. And oftentimes when I get to this part of my day, I find that I've not taken a singular deep breath. So if you're similar to me, we're going to do a few breaths together, inhaling through the nose, exhaling through the mouth. Inhale through the nose, exhale. Each time, maybe feeling your shoulders drop a centimeter more. One more together. Inhale, exhale. We'll move through a short body scan and then explore some present moment awareness with our breath. The meditation will begin and end at the sound of the bell. Let's use this time to arrive in our bodies, where we're at right here, right now. There's nothing to do, no person to be. Just being here. Starting with the top of our head, feeling the tension release from our scalp, down our temples, relaxing the eyes, feeling the jaw release. Maybe remove your tongue from the roof of your mouth. Finding some spaciousness in your neck and shoulders. If it feels good, you can do a couple shoulder rolls or neck rolls, whatever is supportive to find yourself here with a bit more ease. Releasing the tension as we travel down our arms and our hands. Feeling the expansion of our chest as we breathe in, softening our bellies. Moving down into our hips and our legs. Feeling supported by the seat or cushion beneath us. And just spending a few moments here, exploring what the body's feeling. Are you hot or cold? Are you holding tension somewhere? Just finding the natural rhythm of our breath as we breathe in and out of any space that might be carrying a bit too much right now. And with each passing breath, finding increased openness and space, both in our bodies and our minds. Giving ourselves permission to just set everything else down and be right here, right now. Giving ourselves the gift of awareness and presence. And I invite you to focus in on your breath. No need to change or shape or fix it. There's no right or wrong way to be right now, but just focusing in on where you feel the breath in your body. Is it in the chest as it expands and contracts? For some, it's the space right above your upper lip as you breathe in and out. Wherever you feel it for you, just spend a few moments here with our focus on the breath at its point of entry. And if the mind starts to wander, it's okay. Very normal. Thank you, mind, but not right now. Returning to the breath and to this present moment. And sometimes some days are just a little too hectic in my mind and it's hard to concentrate on the breath. So sometimes it's helpful to sort of note in and out with every inhale and exhale. Breathing in, I'll just notice breathing in, breathing out, just noticing breathing out. In, out. Such a gift to give ourselves the ability of this present moment awareness, being able to sit in this moment, setting down whatever might be inflicting us. Maybe we had a rough day. Maybe there's a difficult relationship you're navigating. But right here and right now is just for yourself. Using the breath as our anchor as we remain curious about this awareness. And as we're exploring the breath a bit deeper, can we sort of follow the breath as it moves through the body? With every inhale, sort of exploring where the breath begins and ends. For example, right now, as I breathe in and out, I feel my breath expanding in my chest, but ending in my back. I feel it as it's traveling through my body. Just exploring how the breath makes you feel. And where do you feel it? Breathing in, I'm breathing in. Breathing out, I'm breathing out. Remaining connected to this anchor of breath and to the expansion and space and life that it brings. We'll spend the next couple of minutes in silent practice. The meditation will end at the sound of the bell. Hope you're feeling good. So, like I had mentioned, tonight we're going to be exploring our next series of mindfulness as a path to insight. And we'll be using the book Mindfulness, A Practical Guide to Awakening by Joseph Goldstein as sort of like a reference point throughout this series. So this is by no means like a book club deep dive that we're inviting you to sort of read this entire thing with us. But if you wanted to sort of reference what we're talking about each week, this is where things will be coming from. Feel free to take a look afterwards. I'm going to reference a couple things from the book, so I'm going to hold on to it for now. But yeah, coming into the new year, Andrew and I wanted to do more of like a deep dive into something, and so we thought, what a better place to start than with mindfulness. And specifically, it's going to be through the lens of the Four Foundations of Mindfulness, which is what Joseph Goldstein sort of deep dives in this book. And as a reminder, if you're new, the Four Foundations of Mindfulness are sort of a core part of the Buddha's teachings in the Satipatthana Sutta, which is his teachings on how mindfulness is a path to liberation. And so the Four Foundations specifically draw on awareness taught through four modalities: the body or breath, feeling, tone, mind states, and dhammas. And we'll be exploring each of those throughout the weeks. But tonight, individually, I'm going to be talking about mindfulness in and of itself, and sort of the first, I think it's like the first 6 chapters, which you'd be surprised, like I want to say more than half of this book is just on dhammas. So the 6 chapters are not as long as that might seem. And yeah, so we're going to talk about what mindfulness is, sort of where it comes from, what it requires of us, and what it can lead to. So mindfulness, as I was reflecting on sort of how I found it, and it's great to hear in our icebreaker where you all found mindfulness, but it's certainly grown, over the last 2 decades in terms of like mainstream integration. When I think back to like elementary school days, there was no meditation, there was no like breathing exercises to learn how to regulate like there are in schools now, or like hospitals, or corporate offices, and I certainly could have used it. I was a very anxious child, so that would have been helpful, but yeah, and I think that's because it started to be studied by science, and science tells us that mindfulness physically changes our brain's neuroplasticity. It strengthens the prefrontal cortex for focus and emotional control while shrinking the stress reactive amygdala, leading to reducing anxiety, better attention, lower cortisol, a calmer nervous system by improving sort of the mind wandering default mode network. And while that's all very impressive and supportive, especially when starting young, although mindfulness can be helpful at any age, I just think about how if I had learned to create those pathways at a young age, how supportive it would have been. But what else is mindfulness outside of, a thing to use if you have anxiety? Joseph Goldstein talks about how mindfulness is a path, not just a technique. And so before exploring mindfulness in Buddhism more deeply, in my mind, when I first approached mindfulness, it was like the picture in my mind was, of like a Zen Buddha and like a calm feel, like just all of the like easy breezy, like good, cool, calm and collected, like that was what my mind pictured. And while this image isn't entirely wrong, I feel like it only shows a part of what mindfulness actually is, and certainly the practice of it. It's not all easy breezy, but it certainly is worth it. And so mindfulness, as Goldstein says, is a systemic training of the mind, and that when developed steadily leads to wisdom and the end of suffering. So not merely just a relaxation exercise, mindfulness can provide us with so much more than that. And knowing this honestly makes me really emotional whenever I sit in contemplation of it, the fact that I could achieve some form or ultimate liberation in the here and now, in this present moment, in this life, and not just beyond. And so, like I had mentioned, mindfulness is the core practice of insight tradition, or Vipassana, which is what we practice here. And it's the core discourse of the Buddhist teachings, like I had said in the Satipatthana Sutta. And so I love seeing sort of the trajectory of where this started in as early as 20 BCE, having traveled through word of mouth solely for many, many years across distant lands, eventually finding itself recorded on paper, then books, shared with teachers around the world, the benefits of the practices recognized by science, and in its most simpler version, being shared through the masses via apps like the Calm app, which I used for many years, or 10% Happier. The practice of meditation and yoga has been, essential and critical within that practice for a long time. But knowing that corporations are even incorporating mindfulness, I looked it up, Google has extensive training classes that they offer, and peer-led meditation groups. So it's just really crazy to see sort of where it started to where it is now. And in a lot of ways, it feels like we're all within 6 degrees of the Buddha and his teachings at all times. It's everywhere. Goldstein says, mindfulness trains us to see clearly what is happening as it is happening. And so what does mindfulness ask of us? what is our role in mindfulness? Is it we sit on the cushion or chair each week or at home? Maybe it's listening to one of the apps, like while you drive or while you fall asleep. But is that it? We just sort of show up. And I don't say that passively because I know intimately just showing up is sometimes like the hardest part of anything, most things for me. But what I mean is, does mindfulness sort of start and stop at showing up on the cushion? Is it something that just sort of like gets imbued into us from just being here? Goldstein points out that mindfulness isn't just observation without reaction. It involves qualities like clarity, non-judgment, and non-harm. The moral dimension, which is like ethics and compassion, underlies mindful attention and is inseparable from it. And I think that's such an important part of what we do. Like, yes, we're in community and we take time to prioritize meditation every week, but mindfulness and the qualities it requires, especially in the goal or path to liberation, and the qualities that it instills are inseparable from us and our day-to-day lives and how we move through the world. And I think that's so powerful. Like, yes, I use meditation to help with my anxiety, but what I'm learning in mindfulness follows me everywhere. Follows me in how I speak to myself, follows me in how I'm in relationship with others, in community, in how I practice, because I'm practicing not only for my own liberation, but for the liberation of others. And so to me, being mindful in a deeper sense requires active investigation and not just passive witnessing. I'm not sitting here just observing. I'm actively inquiring with myself, with my own mind, with how I'm meeting what's coming up. And each week here, we're getting curious about our relationship to all sorts of phenomena, like the impermanence, the suffering, the non-self, how our experiences will arise and pass, just like the breath, which we practiced with in our meditation just a few moments ago. And we do that over and over and over again, returning to the practice. And Goldstein in this book introduces in the first 4 chapters, before getting into the 4 foundations, he shares 4 qualities or attitudes that are essential for mindfulness to be effective. He says that it's dedication and persistence, so showing up for the path and for the practice. He says that clear knowing, so a keen, unobstructed awareness, and this comes with time and practice, curiosity and investigation. He says mindfulness in itself is important, so the moment-to-moment awareness. And he says concentration, so a collectedness of mind, like I'm concentrating on what's in front of me, what's right here, right now. Goldstein says the purpose of mindfulness is not to feel better, but to see more clearly. And I think that's really, that was a lot for me to sit with. I think I had perceived when I first came to mindfulness that like it was going to just make my life better, but the point is to see more clearly, to see what is happening as it's happening, and to meet it with non-judgment and compassion. And so these are the qualities that he says support sustained mindfulness and make the practice more than just casual noticing. But this isn't an aim at perfection. Being able to do this takes time. Monks dedicate their whole lives to this in monasteries, and we are lay practitioners, in meeting once a week, or if you have an at-home practice, a few times a week. So no one is expecting us to get all of this right the first time around, which makes being in community important, in spiritual community important like this, makes learning and being reflective and using the tools that we learn here or the ones that, Goldstein had laid out to help us, to learn from people who are further on the path, to give us some tools to use as we're on our own path. And so where does sort of all of this effort go? That sounds like a lot. There's a lot to do. Sounds like a lot of work. And so the sitting and the showing up and the persistence and the curiosity, what's all the effort for in the end? We're putting time, energy, and attention. We're noticing the breath, the mind wandering. And it's reasonable to ask, like, to what end? Like, what am I getting from this? And in short, the fruits can be like very ordinary, maybe not as exciting as like full liberation, but we're human. And so we can notice maybe that with all of that effort, we're a little less reactive. Like today, every driver I encountered didn't use a blinker. Every single one. And I had some choice thoughts, but I was a little less reactive than I might have been otherwise. Maybe we pause before speaking. I have to practice this a lot at work when I'm repeating the same thing like 10 million times in a day. And maybe we're recognizing a pattern sooner. This is certainly one that I have seen a direct impact from my mindfulness practice is I can see my patterns more clearly as they're happening, which has been awful and also helpful. But to see them means I can't ignore them. So these are like the small little sort of everyday, ordinary types of things that we can get from all of this effort. And those things matter. They reduce our suffering. They reduce our own, they reduce others' suffering. They can like soften our lives in very real ways. But from the Buddhist perspective and from the insight tradition that we're practicing, mindfulness ultimately points beyond just stress or self-improvement. All of this effort is going somewhere much, much deeper. Goldstein emphasizes that mindfulness, when practiced steadily and skillfully, leads to insight into the nature of experience itself. And over time, we begin to see directly how experiences arise and pass away, and how clinging creates suffering, and how we habitually take things to be like me and mine in the ownership process of everything that is unfolding minute by minute every single day. And so this seeing isn't like a philosophical thing. The seeing and the things that we're experiencing are deep experiences that we can reflect on. They're through direct observation and awareness. And slowly, things start to change, and the grip of reactivity loosens, and our identification with things softens. This isn't just me or mine. This is life. This is an experience that will happen, and it will go away. And so, where is all of this effort going? It goes towards wisdom, not just abstract knowledge, but an embodied understanding. It goes towards liberation. So not somewhere else or someday, but here, right now, in this very life, in this very moment, we can be liberated. And it goes towards a heart that is less bound by fear and craving and confusion, and a heart that's maybe a bit more capable of meeting the world with more clarity and ease. And the Buddha was really quite radical in this way. He taught that awakening is possible for ordinary people living very ordinary lives. He didn't necessarily only give these teachings to those who had, status or money. It was to everyone. And through sustained attention and ethical care, that's what we're participating in here in community every week. Trying not to become someone else, but learning to see clearly what is already happening right now. And so over the coming weeks, as we explore the Four Foundations of Mindfulness, the body, feeling, tone, mind states, and dhammas. We'll be sort of refining this seeing. Each foundation sort of offers a different doorway to be explored in mindfulness and a deeper understanding that we can gain from it. And I wanted to share as sort of like a peek into the future Four Foundation discussions, a quote from this book. As we were reading, it came up in the section on, I believe, mental states, and I wanted to share. So he's talking about defilements, which I don't know if Andrew will explicitly bring up or whose week that'll be, but we'll get to it. So just stay with me. Goldstein writes, "It took a while to actually follow the Buddha's instructions and see that the difficult mind states were not in themselves a problem or a mistake. They were simply part of the path, impermanent and selfless, just like everything else. Fear is just a mind state." At this point of understanding, there was a certain kind of joy in becoming aware of the defilements, because I would rather see and explore them than not see them and simply act them out. And that feels super relevant for my life right now. I feel like I'm really navigating through a lot of fear and anticipatory anxiety around certain things. And so this idea that like I can recognize fear as just fear, and I don't have to act through it because I can name it for what it is as it's coming up, moment by moment. I feel like Andrew's like secretly cheering because I've been fighting him on this for the last week. But yeah, so there's so much to gain from this. So for now, I hope it's enough to know that nothing you're doing here is wasted. None of your practice is wasted. And that even when the mind is restless, even when practice feels messy or dull or boring, or even when it seems like nothing is happening, something is being cultivated in yourself, in this room together, in your relationships, from what you're doing here, from mindfulness that you carry here and practice here and outside of here. Seeds are being planted. And so that in and of itself is a profound act of care and what I leave you with tonight. So thank you for your time.